I'm Dr. Connie. I'm your host of Mind Your Health podcast. I share my unique perspective both as a practitioner and a patient battling autoimmune condition for over 25 years because I had to figure things out on my own, and my education and my practical approach as a patient allows me to truly integrate it so that you can be whole and the burden of sick care is no longer your own burden to carry. And this is what we help you with in this podcast.
Hey everyone. So today I want to talk about the importance of emotions on metabolism and weight loss. It's one that often gets overlooked. And I believe for as long as I've been in clinical practice, which is over 25 years, and my personal experience, that there's a lot of us who just don't know how to understand our emotions. And this is because we were never taught to feel emotions. We were taught to sort of put them under the rug or brush them under the rug and repress our emotions because showing emotion was being hormonal that time of the month, rolling of the eyes, being neutral, and just, task at hand. But I know genetically that I'm very influenced by the emotions that I feel. And if I can't pulse what emotion and why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, then I can really go into this cycle of self-sabotage. Like my self-talk can be so negative, I don't even know that that's what's happening. And so I just want to bring that to light for those of you as we go into 2024. I know there's many of you who want to lose weight and you're left feeling like it's a lost cause and that you will never, or you feel like you'll never get ahead of losing the weight that you want because you've had so many failures in the past. And I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be that way. So let's make clear sense of what's happening in our bodies. And before I go any further, what qualifies me to talk about this topic? Well, I have a certificate through the Registered Dietitian or American Dietetic Association of really being the weight loss expert. And I got certified in it, and I was on that track. It was an advanced little course that I took. And it was very interdisciplinary driven, meaning there was a psychologist, there was a doctor, there was, of course, the registered dietitian. And I've been a registered dietitian much longer than I've been a physical therapist. So, and I've worked in the hospital as well as wellness centers all over the nation. And what I can tell you is it doesn't matter how much I want and how much I know, and it doesn't matter how much my clients want and how much they know what to do. It's if we can't get under control our emotions and have maturity around it enough to be aware of what those triggers are and how it impacts us, it really doesn't matter what diet you're on. We're going to falter one way or the other. And that's why there's so many of you who are struggling with yo-yo dieting. First and foremost, this is what I've seen in the 25 years that I've been treating various clients from all walks of life, corporate executives on a wellness path, to very sick patients going through very difficult times in their health journey as well. So I'm one of those people that are way far beyond the scope of just fix what you eat. And I'm not one of those dietitians that tell you eat better and you'll lose weight, because I know that that is just scratching the surface. So today I want to tell you how your emotions creates this vibration in the body to cause your body stress. And it's not the emotions in and of themselves, it's the thoughts that you have. And those thoughts are usually habitual in nature. It's a lot of conditioning that went on for you to create identity around sort of your thoughts around who you think you are. And that's been from societal pressures, your conditioning from your parents, from schooling, from your respected mentors along the way, teachers, what have you. Or it may be celebrities or who you think should be the optimal person that you want to be like an influencer, so to speak, right? We don't know. There's a lot of subconsciousness to our identity, and I want you to start to pick up exactly who you are and where your thoughts are coming from so that you can better understand your feelings and better control the outcome of what you're creating this year, because weight loss is one of those outcomes that you really want to get a pulse and really control over so that you can maintain a healthy weight for yourself for the rest of your life. So I must start by talking about the stress response. The impact of stress, even in the Eastern culture where I'm from, in South Korea, we talk about how stress is the culprit of all chronic illnesses. I know that to be true for me as well. I've been a very high achieving individual, like I always had to prove myself, and that comes from a lot of repressed emotions, lots of conditioning from a Asian immigrant household where we were taught to really apply ourselves educationally, strive and achieve and do the best we can in school, and that's what we were believed or led to believe. So for me, authority figures mean a lot, and the authority figures that I had when I was, coming up were my parents, especially my mom. And so when it comes to weight loss and emotions, my mom had a lot of influence in my own identity and my own judgments that I formed about myself. My body image was shaped by my mom. Now, granted, my mom is beautiful to this day. She's going to be 80 this year, but she still does 2 hours of gym time every morning without fail. From 8 to 10 o'clock, you can find her at LA Fitness, just doing all kinds of things that you would never expect an 80-year-old to do. But she has beautiful skin. She's a beautiful woman. She's fit, lean, all those things. But she had a lot of judgments around her daughters and body image and how we ought to look as women, right? And she always said women had to be beautiful and we had to be small and that we couldn't gain weight and all those things. Anyway, it's something that I bought into without knowing that I was buying into it. I didn't know this until later in life, really, when I had my own kids, and I realized, oh my gosh, the impact, without thinking, some things that I believed into about my own body image, and me battling my own autoimmune condition really helped me to see what's really truly important about the weight loss or maintaining your healthy weight and exercising, because it can certainly be overdone to a point where it can fire or backfire against your goals, meaning you can create more inflammation within. So no matter what you try, the more you exercise, the more you can gain weight, the more you diet, the more you pack on the pounds. I've seen that with my own body as well as in my patients who try so hard, right? So when you take a good thing like a diet or being on a diet and take it out of context and then run with it to where it causes body stress, well, it's got to go somewhere. And so your body's going to start to react to these things. And what I want you to really understand is that there is what we term in functional medicine HPA axes, where stress response in the body is not just stress. And people can't really tangibly understand what it means, nor do they know that they're under stress, right? But anytime you have silent talks with yourself, negative self-talks, and things that are under the radar subconsciously, those are things that really weigh down the way you feel. And way you feel brings up the emotions of what you're feeling. And those emotions that you feel really does impact everything in the body. The hypothalamus, it's part of the brain. It really does perceive stress. It's a region in the brain that really does initiate the stress response, okay? And there's also the pituitary gland, which also plays into the biochemical nature to sort of create an orchestrated way to create stress chemicals in the body, specifically the brain, where it starts out to alert all your organs, your whole endocrine system, through your organs to produce an elevated levels or sometimes down-regulated levels of things that you need for metabolic sufficiency and optimization that can be prevented from the stress response itself. So it's really important that you pay attention to the nature of how your body functions, especially getting under the root cause, which is what you're thinking, what you're feeling, that also produces or creates the results in your life. In your case, if you're listening, chances are you are wanting to lose weight. One of the hormones that it really impacts is cortisol. Now, cortisol is referred often as the stress hormone. I'm sure everybody sort of associates cortisol with weight gain because it can be very inflammatory if it's prolonged, or if it's, how do I want to say this? If it's triggered for a long periods of time where it becomes prolonged, then it begins to have a negative effect in the body. Because it's responsible for energy regulation, and if it's unbalanced, you're not going to be able to utilize the energy stores in the body in a way that you need to move your body, to think, to do anything that you want to do, right? It often also has a lot of impact in your ability to want to do things, the will, right? And then also, it can also, in right quantities, can be anti-inflammatory. And that can really help you to diminish or control the stress and the injury that you may sustain in the body, as well as it also helps with a proper, healthy immune response. So it's really healthy if it's regulated. It's not so healthy if you're stressed out. So really keep that in mind. It also, the hormones in the body, when stressed and the emotions are on the surge, I want you to know that there is hunger hormones that really gets produced to make the body want to crave anything and everything. It's a way of your body to cope with the negative emotion is to find comfort. And a lot of people find comfort in the foods that we eat. We just overeat, and how many times do we watch romantic movies where a breakup happens and the woman or a man may be sitting down in front of the sofa eating a pint of ice cream just to numb that pain and the suffering and the mourning of that loss of that relationship, right? This is what we do. And a lot of my patients over the years, when I'm counseling them on proper nutrition as a registered dietitian, they don't even know when they ate that whole box of cookie after they had a stressful day at work. Or some of them might tell me, I need a full bottle of wine, and that's a couple of times a week, especially after a hard day. And that just becomes a habitual thing that we do. Not to mention the appetite regulation, hunger signals, right? As well as belly fat. Belly fat gets larger, and the problem with belly fat, especially if you're women, we tend to tack on a lot of belly fat, and belly fat tends to have a lot of xenoestrogenic compounds that get stuck in those cells, because fat cells just get bigger and bigger, right? And how many times have you heard a woman, middle-aged woman, who tell you that they've starting to get spare tires in the middle because of, childbirth that happened 20 years ago, right? Hormonal dysregulation can certainly happen. Going back to belly fat and xenoestrogen is that a lot of the fat compounds that we eat, especially in the way of meats, they have a lot of hormones in them injected in the meats themselves, especially if you're not getting the grass-fed, grass-finished red meat, chicken, pork, what have you. And it's nearly impossible to get the holistic kind 100% of the time. I'm guilty as charged. I do the best I can. But from eating those meats, conventional meats over time, can accumulate, your body can accumulate these xenoestrogens. Xenoestrogens are compounds that mimic estrogen to say that your body starts to produce, and the fat cells now act like an endocrine organ, much like the ovaries, to produce these xenoestrogenic compounds into the body, and your body, your liver specifically, begins to start to think that it is coming from your ovaries, like it's estrogen, and then estrogen dominance has consequences, and that's usually that inflammation and belly fat that can get worse, okay? It's not uncommon when you have emotional upheavals that we have emotional eating. We eat for comfort. When we have chronic stress, it causes us to eat more. Some of us, not so much, but most of the people, I'd say about 80% of the population, we end up stuffing our faces with more stuff just to numb the pain, because we never really learned the healthy ways to cope. Can't talk about it. We're not very expressive. Most of us are not confrontational. We didn't learn proper boundaries in our household. And so the best way we know how to deal with it is in silence, in a room, with a pint of ice cream or a box of cookies or a big cake, just stuffing and stuffing until we feel gross. And it's almost like a self-sabotaging behavior, in my opinion. But we do it unknowingly. No judgment coming from me. We all have these moments. But these are human moments. But imagine what would happen if you got under that and understood why you feel the way you do and choose to stay in that feeling so that you can better understand yourself and be a friend to yourself and get yourself out of that so that you can make better choices that your body will thank you later for, is really the goal. What I want to really talk about is the most important thing in your weight loss journey is your relationship with yourself. Somehow or another, my goal when working with my patients who have weight loss goals is not to tell them and dictate what exactly should eat or they should eat. It's really about owning this body of ours and learning to have this intuitive sense of being full, what hunger feels like, how to supply the body what it needs, not what you want in that moment. Because a lot of the times what your body need may not coincide with what you crave. That's why a lot of people say, why do I want that when it's bad for me? But that's what I want, and the cravings take over and you have that. You know, I'm not one of those people, you never have the cake. I'm about have the cake and eat it too. But we have to do it sensibly to where you have a healthy weight and you have a good balance system in and out, and you can manage the pounds that you carry in your body, not because you're harshly judging your body, but because you love this home so much that you want to take care of it to last you, and you want to feel and look your best. That should be the goal. It's so easy, but how many times do we let our emotions get the better side of us, and we start to go down this rabbit hole of feeling bad, and then when we do that, self-sabotaging ensues. We don't even know where it came from, and we failed at making progress towards our weight loss goals. So your relationship with yourself is the number one important thing. The truth is, not many of you really have thought about what your relationship with yourself is. I just want you to be hyper vigilant and hyper aware of sort of the conversations you have with yourself. How do you really judge yourself when you get on that scale? What do you tell yourself? When you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself in the morning, are you disgusted with the image staring back at you? Are you loving on this? Because if you really don't love yourself, how can you expect to take care of it in a way that it needs? Because there's so many people that I've treated that essentially end up hating their body so much that it's not really about the diet for wellness and health. It becomes so much more about punishment. And I don't think that that is a healthy relationship to have with yourself. Why? Because your relationship with yourself, if it's negative, that's going to overflow, and you start to project that onto every relationship you have. You start to have guilt, shame, and resentment around with all those around you, and you can't keep your words. You can't live in integrity. You can't hold your own authenticity and your truth, and you can't speak the truth. You can't be the truth, and you can't really show who you are and show up as the best version of yourself if you can't maintain healthy relationships. And all it requires is for you to be really honest with yourself, not to hide the parts of you that you want to hide because they're so shameful, but begin to embrace all aspects of it. And when you can do that, you start to be more considerate towards those around you, and you start to really be clear about who you want to keep company nearby, and start to separate or detach from those things that no longer serves you. Because when you get on this plan of weight loss, what happens again is a lot of the people that are used to you eating whatever, because, eating is one of those celebratory things where, I used to go out with my friends. The number one thing we do together is go out to a nice restaurant and enjoy wine, hors d'oeuvres, and then dessert, just a full course meal. And it's a nice time outing with my valued friends, right? And that's how we create this communion relationship. But all of a sudden, you start to pick at your food, and you start to portion control. You start to say, this is what I'm eating, and you're not overindulging. Well, those people around you, they're just going to urge you to eat more. Try to do it unknowingly, sabotaging you. So you have to do it in a way where you can sort of have support around you and set some boundaries to where you feel like if that outing's going to really set you up for failure, you might say no to that at that time. You ask yourself, what do you need right now to stay on this track? Not let the circumstances or anybody else drive what your goals should be. Because if they have opinions, if you're like me, you start to throw your agenda out the door in lieu of what they want to do or what they think you ought to do, right? And so this is all a matter, it all comes full force, and we all get pressured, and that's why we have this peer pressure in everything that we do. So make sure that you are able to express support or express needing support from your friends. Maybe not necessarily share your goals with those people that may not be supportive, and don't question why they're not supportive, but just understand that our human nature is that way. We like what's familiar. We don't like any change. And it doesn't make that person a bad friend for you. It's just where they are in that time. And it's up to you to sort of navigate how you're going to be sensitive towards your friends and the people around you to decide how you're going to position yourself and set proper boundaries so that you can set yourself up for success. Okay? And I think that that is one of the most important things that you can do. And really, the whole reason for this podcast is for you to really understand the role of your emotions on your weight, and those emotions that you have yet to learn to feel and process may be something that's sabotaging you over and over again. And getting under that to the root cause and changing your perspective and learning to really be in the feeling, even if it's negative, will pull you out of that pattern and shift you towards that transformation. And that gap between where you are to where you want to be no longer has to be so long and distant It now can merge as one as soon as you identify yourself as somebody who will be at this weight or the goal weight, and you pursue that with confidence, no matter what your circumstances dictate, and stay emotionally connected with who? With yourself, in a way where you support yourself. We don't need any support externally. I am here to guide your way, but if you start to rely on a registered dietitian, a doctor, a health coach, or nutritionist, or whatever, that becomes the source, and you'll never have enough internal guidance system to keep taking you further and further, because diet isn't something you do momentarily until you reach your weight. What you have to remember is once you reach your ideal weight, you want to be able to sustain it healthily. And that requires lots of lifestyle adjustments, but most importantly, getting to the heart of your identity, learning to feel your feelings, and understand the importance of and the connection between your emotions and metabolism, metabolic sufficiency, as well as your weight loss capability. So I call weight loss in my programs weight release. It's an energy you release so that you can be free from all the negativity. Inflammation is out of your body, and all you're left with is peace, love, and calm, no matter what life throws at you, because you're able to stand in your own power, feel whatever emotions that come along your way. One of the best life coaches that I learned from, her name's Brooke Castillo, in the past, she's always said the worst thing that can happen to you is a feeling. And so if you can just be very strong and feel what you need to feel, and no matter how old you are, choose to be in that feeling, I promise you, your weight loss goals will be so much easier, and releasing the weight is so much easier than, oh my gosh, getting on a diet to lose the weight. That seems such an uphill battle. And you guys, it really is. I've been there, and no matter what I tried, I used to tack on more weight. But it's when I completely changed my perspective, pounds just melted off of me, and I didn't even have to work at it. I just listened to my body, and it just feels really nice when you feel comfortable in your own skin, and you've got your own back, and you have full control over what your body needs, what it wants, and what vices you want to keep, and what vices are not worth it. It's your call. And that goes for all your relationships, all the friends that you have around you. Either they're supportive or they might not be, and you being very sensitive and eloquently placing those boundaries around yourself for the time being to really shield yourself from the influences of that, so that you can reach your goals first and foremost, is going to be the hardest work. But that's what this is all about. Understand that there is a deep, deep connection between your emotions and your metabolism and weight loss. And I hope I've answered all your queries or questions about this topic. If you have more you want to ask me, please comment below, and I will be more than happy to add to this podcast so that you're clear. So make it be easy, make it be fun, but most importantly, remember, you've got to love yourself. So I'll end here. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys all next week.
Thank you for listening to the Mind Your Health podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, we would so much love it and appreciate it if you share it with someone who could benefit as well as to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else where podcasts are found. And leave us a review. We would be so grateful, and it helps us to reach more people just like you, so you can become more empowered to enjoy longevity and health. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Dr. Connie Chung. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast for a new episode every single week. Thank you again.